Grim.
I'm Zolgar. That's Kaiju.
And this is Two Idiots and a Dog, Idiots on Film.
Where we explore movies that we love.
Or think are important for pop culture. This week, we're talking about The Adam Project from Netflix.
So, The Adam Project. You know, I actually don't really remember why I put this one on the list at this point.
It's timely and topical, you said.
And then, we did it a year later.
Pretty much.
We need to get better about that. But anyways, part of the reason I did choose to do this movie we're doing that...
What's the title of the movie, Zolgar? Tell me the name of the movie, Zolgar.
The name of the movie is That Time I Killed Grim and Buried Him in the Backyard and used his grave site as a monster truck rally for my RC truck. And I just, I don't know. That's the weirdest anime title I've ever heard. Yes, that is part of the title, by the way.
It's not the weirdest title I've ever heard. You need to watch more anime.
That's still part of the title.
No. That's a Panic at the Disco song.
By Imagine Dragons?
Featuring Fall Out Boy.
Okay, this episode's off to a smashing start.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and start the main episode now, since this preamble is a shovel.
But it was a good, fun movie that, it was enjoyable. And I wanted to talk about it at the time.
It was okay.
And that's the episode, folks. It was okay.
Thanks for coming by. We'll see y'all next about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We'll see y'all in about 2 weeks. Hold on. Okay, so once again, our non-existent production staff are telling us that we have to actually do an episode. Damn.
Kaiju is telling us that if we don't actually do an episode, then people are going to stop backing us on Patreon, which means I have to stop buying cookies for her, at which point, it's unacceptable.
So it's all downhill from there, really. Next thing you'll find us both in a gutter. Not because we've fallen further or anything, just because we're in a gutter for no reason. It's us.
Hey, I class up this gutter.
Putting your stickers on the gutter is not classing it up.
Yeah-huh.
This is not Lisa Frank.
Yeah-huh. Also, it's not stickers, it's my button collection. Anyways, what were we talking about again?
I'm not getting paid enough for this crap. I don't know. What movie are we talking about, Zolgar?
We are talking about a silly, fun action movie starring Ryan Reynolds.
Mm-hmm. What's it called?
I mean, do we really need to give the title? Because they're pretty much all the same at this point.
That's why we need to give the title.
No, we'll just talk about it, and people can figure out which one it is by the context clues of what movie we're talking about. And if they can't, well, then they'll just decide that we were talking about Deadpool. No, Deadpool 2, because time travel's involved. This movie kind of is Deadpool 2, only, a little bit more family-friendly. There's a kid. There's time travel. There's Ryan Reynolds. There's weird tech.
Needs more Josh Brolin.
But we do have Mark Ruffalo, so, close enough.
That's not even dollar store Josh Brolin. Like, that's a completely different brand. That's a completely different product. That's like going in to get, like, dollar store Dr. Pepper and coming out with, like, dollar store bubblegum soda. Like, they're not even remotely related, other than that they are both a beverage.
Okay, so once again, we're talking about The Atom Project, which was released in 2022 on Netflix, starring Ryan Reynolds, Walker Scobell, and a bunch of people I don't remember their names.
Jennifer Garner, Zoe Saldana. Yeah, those are the important ones. I guess the villain is important, but I'm too lazy to look her up. So, eh.
And then there's the guy villain, and then there's Mark Ruffalo, who plays Mark Ruffalo. I mean, he basically plays Bruce Banner without the Hulk.
And a little more snark.
I think without the Hulk, Bruce Banner would be more snark.
It's possible. So, the cast, which we just listed off mostly, were pretty good. Not gonna lie.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds is, well, Ryan Reynolds and always fun.
Yep. Zoe Saldana kicked all the ass.
As she tends to.
Mark Ruffaloed.
He Ruffaloed all over the place.
I will say, having Jennifer Garner playing the mom character was a refreshing change of pace for me.
Yeah, and she played the mom very well.
She did. She did. Problem is, though, I spent the whole movie going, dude, your mom's hot.
Well, yeah. And for the record, the villain was Catherine Keener.
Which, she does a good villain.
Yeah, she also hasn't done a lot.
Because she was also the villain in Incredibles 2.
That she was. Which that would be where I'd heard her voice before.
Yep. She still looks really familiar to me, but like I can't find anything where she would have been on camera that I would have seen her in. So that's got to just be one of those moments. But her voice, definitely heard it before. And her body double did a great job as well. Because it's honestly not easy playing another version of a character that's already on screen.
And yet someone else in this movie knocked it out of the park.
A little bit, yeah. I'm kind of wondering if they did the Chris Evans, Tom Hiddleston thing.
But I mean, even if they did, for a kid that age.
Oh yeah, no, like I'm not knocking the kid's chops or anything. Like he was pretty much mini-me Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. I mean, Walker Scobell, and I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. He kind of stole the show with this because he captured Ryan Reynolds' timing and snark so well.
And I think that's part of it that makes it work is the perspective shifts throughout the movie because we start this movie where we are. I think we got like a very brief little prologue intro moment. Then we spend a good chunk of this early movie with young Adam. We go through his crappy day at school.
And you gotta admit, that crappy day at school right there, that was Ryan right there.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. Also, did you know that he is going to be playing Percy Jackson in the Percy Jackson TV series?
Oh, is that who they got? Cool.
Yep.
So we start with this perspective of we're with young Adam, right? And I can't pinpoint the moment, but somewhere we shift to where we're honestly mostly following things from adult Adam's perspective. It's a very subtle tonal shift that I can't quite explain, and you can actually see that tonal shift in the epilogue scenes as well because there is a little bit of a slight difference in tone between young Adam's epilogue and older Adam's epilogue.
Yeah. I think about the point where it shifts is where the girlfriend shows up. Or wife, I should say.
Yeah.
Because that's also when that's when the stakes raise. Because if you think about it, prior to that point, nobody was killed. The opposing troops start dying when she shows up.
Yeah. The real question is, and this is never explained in the confines of the movie, mind you, so who knows? Are they actually dead? Or are they just violently snapped back to their fixed time?
That is an interesting question.
Because all we see is them explode into quantum glitter, as you put it, cosmic confetti. But does that mean that they're gone? Or is that just because the glittery effect is a little similar to what we see around the coronal edges of the stable wormholes? So it makes you wonder.
That is an interesting point.
Just something to ponder. I mean, technically speaking, nobody in this movie died. Well, one person died in this movie.
And one could also argue that technically speaking, everybody in this movie died.
Yeah, certainly the versions we knew.
And I mean, and at which point that becomes a question when you're dealing with time travel. If you change history, does that kill the versions of people you used to know?
Now you're just somebody that I used to know.
And then we get slapped with a lawsuit.
It was less than 6 seconds. We're fine.
Thank Christ it was less than 6 seconds.
I mean, I could just start belting out all the karaoke ever. I mean, it's fine.
If you want to do that, let me put you in touch with one of the other podcasts that actually is a podcast about bad karaoke. And then, you can do that. And
What do you mean bad karaoke?
there's no such thing as good karaoke.
There is. I have seen it.
Nope. Even good karaoke is bad karaoke.
Face is bad karaoke.
Your mom's face is bad karaoke.
Your face's mom is bad karaoke.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Your bad karaoke doesn't make any sense.
What is wrong with us?
We don't got that kind of time.
Okay. Anyways, back on track. Sort of, maybe.
Are we?
For 2 seconds.
Are you sure? I'm not even sure there is a track anymore.
I think the kind of question about time travel there is a good segue into the tech. Dun dun dun.
So they only, in the most vaguest of terms, explain how their time travel technology works. Something involving wormholes and quantum electromagnets, which aren't even really a thing, but sure, we'll go with it. And that has somehow still distilled down into all sorts of weird and interesting tech.
Like a lightsaber.
It's not a lightsaber.
It's a lightsaber.
Never seen a lightsaber do that. So he does have a collapsing rod. Which he proudly displays.
Oh, yeah.
Double-ended. Hello,
Kinky.
ladies. That's about as far as I'm going to take that joke. And but the blades don't cut. They are not heated plasma. They are definitely some sort of quantum fuckery.
Well, and they kind of cut. I mean, because if it was just blunt force, that car was not going fast enough for it to break a tree trunk. So there is some form of cutting going on there.
I don't think it's cutting, though.
Well, then how did it go through the tree trunk?
Quantum physics! Do you know them?
So what you're saying is it cuts with quantum physics.
It is not actually cutting.
Then what is it doing?
Cutting cuts into a material and redistributes the material around the blade in such a way that it severs things, right?
Okay.
I think that thing was actually literally dissolving matter. But it wasn't burning, so it wasn't a lightsaber. Especially because of some of the other things that thing can do. So, if you die outside your fixed time, you turn it into cosmic confetti.
Yes.
Which is kind of implied to be some sort of quantum effect because of the same coloration being used in the wormholes. And that's the same coloration and effects that are used on the not a lightsaber. Because there are times where he will actually use it to project what a quantum kinetic field, for lack of a better term.
And he also uses it to do that really badass kip up move.
Yep.
And shockwave.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about. That stuff right there. This it's a fascinating piece of technology, and they didn't explain how it works because if they tried to explain how it works, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, if they tried to explain how it worked, it would have been either Star Trek pseudoscience, which is, well,
I mean, the science we got was Star Trek pseudoscience.
yeah,
And if they
and there
took it
was
further, it would have been even more ridiculous.
yeah, the level of Star Trek pseudoscience we got in the movie was that right level of, okay, I can buy this in the context of the movie without the, and now we're going to explain everything with pseudoscience.
Or the inverse, which is where we are now stuck in a 3-hour lecture on quantum physics.
Other tech. I did like the fact that they had the tech in this film bio-encrypted, which was partially, a MacGuffin gadget to make sure that the kid came along for the ride.
Yep.
But it also makes sense to have, especially your weaponry and other high-end tech like that, bio-encoded to certain users.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing you want is your enemy picking up one of your guy's weapons and using it against your people.
Unfortunately, in this particular instance, their opponent happened to be somebody who is still registered. And the thing of it is, they could start making an argument about, well, why didn't they just remove him from the registry? Or remove her from the registry? And the fact of the matter is, that can be explained simply by going, well, if she did that, she would need to start explaining why and how, and it just gets messy.
Now, what they should have had, and any villain worth their salt is an idiot for not doing this, your high end tech like that, especially like time travel tech, have a kill switch. Have a button you can push that shuts it down or destructs it. And considering it can bio-encoded, you can have it bio-encoded, or that button, to just you.
Sounds fake.
Your face is fake.
Well, we're not doing that again. There are a couple of other elements of the time travel and stuff in the movie that we need to touch on.
Touch. I'm not touching you.
I know you're not, because you're in a completely different room.
Well, now you've just gone and broken the illusion.
Your face is an illusion.
I thought you said we weren't doing that again.
We aren't. You noticed that we're not continuing the bit. So one of the things I want to touch on is one of the elements of time travel that they clearly spell out, and that is how paradoxes work, or rather, how they don't happen.
Well, it actually never really addresses true paradox.
Well, you don't. If you go back and you make a change, there are certain inherent paradoxes to that. They don't even bother because they even hang a lantern on it with the whole multiversal questioning that the kid gives, and he's just like, God, we watch too many movies. In this particular franchise, there is no multiversal split, nor is there you go back, you change the thing, you go forward, and you remember everything. The way they explain it is that everybody has a fixed point in time where they belong. So, for example, adult Adam belongs in 2050. The version of Kid Adam we meet belongs in 2022, et cetera, et cetera. And that you are intrinsically tied to your fixed time. And if you make a change in the past, when you return, your memories are basically just like updated, and you have no memory or recollection of any of the changes you may have done because you are no longer that person. You are the resultant cascade version that you put into effect with whatever you changed.
Which does not at all address the issue of, say, the grandfather paradox.
That's because the grandfather paradox is fucking stupid.
Except the grandfather paradox is a simple way to explain the question of what would happen in a time travel situation where you travel back in time and you stop yourself from being born. Because if you never travel back, if you were never born, you never travel back in time to make the change that led to you not being born, and, well, hence paradox. And that is if you can change history, that is a very real problem with the potential of time travel.
Except the movie does address that.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Look at what happens to Saurian. Look at what happens to the atoms. They made a incredibly significant change to the timeline, and we saw what happened to them. The movie covered it.
So, which point I suppose preventing time travel from being invented is a form of the grandfather paradox.
How could he go back in time to unmake time travel if time travel never happened? It's because the change you make erases that alternate future completely, and the future you make supplants it. So when you go back to your timeline, you are no longer the person who changed the timeline. You are the version of you that belongs in the new timeline. But unlike the multiversal theory, there's no split, which is an intriguing method of dealing with it, in my opinion, when it comes to the genre, because usually they're going to try to like come up with some clever loophole of the paradox or multiversal theory or right?
Whereas in this case, it's just apparently.
The universe says, fuck you.
Actually, what the universe says is, okay.
Yeah, okay. Now stop fucking with my shit. Because the epilogue of the movie does show that, at least in this franchise, the timeline does have a basic idea of what it wants to do.
Yeah, the fact that even though there are some major changes to everything about Mark Ruffalo's character's career going forward and knowledge he has now, he still ends up dying, apparently in a car accident.
And Adam still ends up meeting his wife when she shows up to the wrong lecture
On the wrong campus.
at the wrong time. And he still offers to walk her, and that's how they met. Like the fact that that level of detail remained the same across temporal reversion really is the biggest argument in this movie, that yeah, there is in fact a way that the timeline wants things to go, and that if you give it enough time between the change you make and where you are, it will try to start making those changes. One could argue, if you want to get really fucking philosophical and pull away from it, take a step back even further, his wife finding about all of this and kicking all of this into motion was, in and of itself, the universe trying to correct itself.
One could argue even a step further. The universe was trying to correct itself before things even happened, when a random car accident kills Mark Ruffalo's character.
That's possible. Like, we don't know. And that's the really cool part about this movie's idea of how time travel works, is we don't know how many times the past has been altered, by who or what.
Because all we know is that time travel was invented in the 2020s, 2030s, and by the 2050s, Saurian runs everything. We don't know if time travel was invented, in the 1980s, or if it was invented in the, 3010s, or.
And we do know for sure that the younger version retains the memories into the later version, because she straight up admits, listen, that was like 30 years ago. It's a little hazy. So she has some memories
Yeah.
of meeting her older self. So the only evidence at all, by the way.
Well, also no. Okay, the thing that you're thinking is, well,
No, because she started looking at it. For you, it was like 5 minutes ago or whatever. For me, it was 30 years ago. Details are a little hazy because she doesn't have the older version's memories of that conversation. They were erased. So all she's got is half remembered, hazy memories from 30 years ago of her younger self's perspective, talking to her older self. And the interesting thing of it all is because of the way time travel works in this movie, the only evidence that anything was changed in the first place was that single flight log.
yeah, the log of something coming back from 2018
when nobody went there in the first place. That's how they know something changed. And the thing of it is, we spent a good portion of the movie, they really have no other evidence that Saurian did anything. So we're kind of just working on faith until Saurian kind of confirms she's the bad guy by, well, threatening to kill everybody.
Yeah. Well, and you got the fact that, okay, Laura went back in time to check things out, and then, her plane gets blowed up.
Mm-hmm.
So that in and of itself is kind of a confirmation for her that, well,
at the very least, somebody with access in the program is up to something, if not Saurian herself.
Yeah.
And she kind of just decides that it's probably Saurian based on the limited information that she has. And honestly, when you're dealing with a time travel conspiracy, deciding that your adversary is the person in charge of the program is probably not a bad move to assume from the start, just to make sure that, like, you don't. Basically, it's the assumption that your enemy is the most damaging person it could be in order to ensure that you're not underestimating your opponent, type of thing.
Well, also you consider the fact that, old Adam tells young Adam that the future is very Terminator-esque, which, from what is implied is that Saurian is in charge, is like the ruler of the world, basically.
Yeah.
Or at least the country.
And to be clear, what he actually says is that Terminator is a good day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not much of a leap to get there if you're Laura. Everybody else kind of taking it on faith a little bit, but it does make sense given a little bit of context. But we, the audience, don't know that. Not really. We are operating almost 100% on faith. Like, call it 80% on faith at this point that, yeah, Saurian is our bad guy until she shows up and confirms it.
Come on. We, the audience, know that Saurian is the bad guy just from the name. Saurian is a villain name.
Your face is a villain name.
Oh God, it's your face! What? It's your face! He's right there! It's like destroying the city! My face is not destroying the city! No, not your face! Your face!
It's like the who's on first of supervillainy. So, all in all, though, like it is a no-brainer popcorn movie if ever I saw one, right? But it poses some really neat stuff if you start extrapolating.
And ultimately, it's a lot of fun. It's sweet. It's got some things that you don't quite, or that you. It doesn't really have anything that you don't expect, but it does. It doesn't do some. I can talk. It doesn't do some things that you expect it to do.
Yeah.
Because how many movies like this would the death of their father not be an accident? It was all planned by Saurian because he didn't want time travel to be used for profit and blah, 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 blah. So we had to kill him.
Or making Laura the damsel, even though he'd been talking up how much of a badass she was the whole movie.
Yeah. Because, when shit's hitting the fan and just out of the blue, she shows up saving his ass.
Yeah. Now, it is worth noting, she does die, but it's not fridging. She has agency in the moment. She makes the conscious choice to send him on to complete the mission.
She chooses to sacrifice herself, knowing that the fight will kill her, but she can slow the enemy down enough for him to make the jump to 2018 where he needs to finish the mission.
And furthermore, one could also argue that, technically speaking, by the climax of the movie, everybody we knew dies. Or at least the versions of them that we know, because in the epilogue we are shown what happens to young Adam and old Adam when they are sent back to their fixed time after time travel is nullified. While they are very similar to the versions that we knew, they are not those same versions. There are very clear differences. The Adam, the younger Adam is a little more compassionate and kind of, there's that echoes thing that Laura brings up where he just hugs his mom out of the blue. But that's not the only change we see, because he was getting ready to go to school. We know that scene. We saw that scene earlier. He was suspended for getting into that fight. So there was definitely a few more changes there that went into that situation. And then for older Adam, he's calmer, happier, snarkier. He doesn't have that crankiness to him that he had for the adult Adam we knew had. And I'm not saying that adult Adam we knew was like broody Batman type crap. No. But there was kind of a little bit of there was a little grit to him, a little roughness to him. And he kind of needed that roughness to be our action hero, right? But epilogue adult Adam didn't really have that quality.
Now, to be fair, epilogue old Adam was younger and hadn't lived through a dystopic nightmare.
True. But he also came across as less angry overall, whereas he spent most of the movie just being absolutely furious at his dad.
Also, dying outside of your time does kill you.
Oh?
One very simple reason that we know this. Because otherwise, they would not have tried to kill the wife outside of her time. And unless it was a very, very closely kept secret that it didn't kill you, she would have just killed herself outside of her time and gotten snapped back to the proper time.
Well, here's the thing. Everything was protocols and tests and theories. Like, it really kind of sounded like they hadn't, like the time travel tech was standardized already, but they were still experimenting on actually exploring time. So it's possible they didn't know for sure.
No, I think, though, Adam's comment, it's a very casual comment that dying outside of your time is messy. So that didn't come across as him seeing it for the first time or learning about it for the first time. It came across more as
Well, he didn't say dying.
Yes, he did.
No, he did not. He said being outside of your fixed time gets messy.
I watched it with subtitles on. He says dying outside of your time is messy.
Anyway, all in all, it's a decent movie. Is it the best movie ever? No. I'll be honest, most of the movies we watch will never achieve that. Like, they're not even in the running. But it's a fun, entertaining movie that poses some pretty good
theoretical questions once you start extrapolating off of the Swiss cheese plot. Was there anything else there you needed to cover?
I don't think so.
So, the Adam Project. Come for the Ryan Reynolds, stay for Zoe Saldana kicking all the ass.
Come for twice the Ryan Reynolds, because Walker Scobell is basically a mini Ryan
He
Reynolds.
really was just fucking mini-me Ryan Reynolds. Well, that's it for this week. Please consider rating, reviewing, following, and all that other nonsense on your favorite podcast platforms.
If you'd like to tell us how much of idiots we are, believe me, we know, or send Kaiju fan mail, you can email us at tiaadmedia@gmail.com, or you can join us on Discord and the various social media platforms, all linked in the show notes.
You should also check out this great podcast. Who are we promoting this week?
We record these well in advance. I guess we just have to listen to the promo to figure out.
Hello, I'm a sophisticate, and so can you.
Is the name of our podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony.
And I'm another of your hosts, Sydney,
And we're two queer millennials with ADHD.
who have been lying about our own cultural literacy.
If you've ever been in a situation where you pretended to know more than you do about an important movie or a piece of literature,
Yeah, or like a super cool band.
then this is the show for you.
This is a show where we engage with the canon so that you don't have to.
Topics for discussion will include such things as:
Is Carrie Brownstein the coolest person?
can anyone who likes the movie Chinatown be trusted?
Why, Tom Waits, why?
All of these questions and more will be answered on every episode of I'm a Sophisticate, and so can you.
Available wherever you find your podcast.
That was the greatest promo I've ever heard. It moved me to tears.
Your acting is so bad, I've already forgotten who the promo was for. I guess I have to go check the show notes to see.
We'd also like to give a quick thank you to our supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi.
Especially these idiots.
Random Warrior, Rain, and the perpetually banned Athen Mortis. Thank you.
We could probably do this without you, but it wouldn't be nearly as much fun.
If you like what we do, please consider supporting us on Patreon or Ko-fi.
You can get access to episodes a week early, shoutouts in our episodes, special behind-the-scenes bonus content.
Also, we won't put commercials in our Patreon episodes.
Do we put commercials in our regular episodes yet?
I don't know. Well, guess we'll have to find out whenever this goes live.
You can also find us at patreon.com/TIAADmedia and Ko-fi.com/TIAADmedia.
Those links are in our show notes as well.
And of course, thank you for listening to Two Idiots and a Dog.